I recently watched an Out of Spec podcast where there was a discussion around a new EV owner's decision for why he chose which car he did, the actual purchasing process, and what it's like for them to now own that electric vehicle. It's very interesting. The way the person who was being interviewed was answering the questions were ways that I could relate to my own EV journey. Basically, he wasn't making an electric vehicle purchase out of environmental concerns. He wasn't making an electric vehicle because he was trying to add new snazzy technology into his daily life. His wife got a new job that had a much longer commute, and the household economics were going to be impacted. So he was looking for a way of mitigating the impact of the larger commute that his wife was going to have to have as a part of their routine, and their existing car was starting to have more breakdowns. That was basically it. The electric vehicle fit the bill because they were able to have predictable energy costs for the fueling of the vehicle. There's fewer breakdowns with electric cars, and it's more convenient to be able to charge in the garage. So basically that was what the decision criteria came down to, and then they also went over the discussion around the actual purchasing of the electric vehicle, which they chose a used electric vehicle, and what it's like now. And it turns out that every time that his wife goes to and from work, they have about 150 miles left over of range in the car if they need to do anything else throughout the day. So for them, it really worked out. Also, recently, I had someone ask me in a comment for one of my videos whether or not I thought the adoption of the NACS connector with the OEM automakers was going to have a big impact on EV adoption. My answer is no, because people who are going through their daily lives are not tuned into intricacies of the geeked out technical details of electric vehicle technology and standards and things like that. They're just trying to get food on the table and keep the kids clothed, get to and from work, things like that. What would catch those people's attention is if there was a way that their quality of life could be increased and the household budget could be improved at the same time. That would catch their interest. Tony Seba has long been referred to by EV enthusiasts concerning a presentation he did about transformations. I'll link the playlist in full down below in the description. There is mention in the part 1, but really the bulk of what's being referred to by Tony Seba and the EV community takes place in the second part. There's something called an S-curve adoption rate, and what an S-curve provides is a predictable percentage of adoption of a new technology. And you might think that's crazy. How can you predict such a thing? And the answer is history. There's been so many times where there's been a disruptive technology that has been adopted that there is now a predictable adoption curve, and it's called an S-curve. And it goes down and comes up, and I'll put a picture of it up here. But the more common way of displaying an S-curve besides in shaping of a letter S is in a bell curve approach. And as you can see, there are different phases. We're currently in the early adopter phase. Colorado reached 17% BEV sales in the third quarter of 2023, and the country as a whole is approaching 10%. There's something called an inflection point where the grade of the S-curve starts to increase noticeably. And it also is the point where the businesses consider the market to be interrupted. So that's called an inflection point. The inflection point for EVs is predicted to be when something called price parity occurs. And for people who are new to the EV community, you probably haven't heard of all these things, so maybe this is going to be helpful for you. I'm not quite sure. But really, I'm just doing this as an informative session to get it out there for people to be aware. And currently, we are at price parity, or will be in just a few months. OEMs have been putting out higher priced, more luxury class EVs as a means of recouping initial investment in the retooling. But it's not like they can't produce less expensive EVs. Tesla's been doing it longer, and they're starting to get their prices down below price parity. And then the other OEM makers will be following suit as well. So really the question is, are we at price parity now? I think we basically are. And in the future, it's going to be less expensive to purchase an electric vehicle than it will be a comparable internal combustion engine vehicle. And the battery electric vehicle is more reliable and more convenient. So back to the household budget, it just makes sense, at which point you have rapid adoption and the S-curve starts to show itself in the technical adoption of whatever new technology is being adopted, in this case, electric vehicles. So the Out of Spec podcast, I'm going to link down below in the description, as well as the Tony Seba playlist. And if you're not aware and you're new to EVs, welcome to the community. And it turns out that you're joining right at the inflection point of price parity, where the S-curve adoption is going to start increasing exponentially. At least that's what the predictions are. And everything up to this point has been reflective that that's accurate. So anyway,